So I want to talk about something really quickly. And I want to talk about the key here is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance and self-love, and I do not mean self-love and self-acceptance in the way that people describe it in the lower mind. In the lower mind, people describe self-love as loving their physical self. Nothing wrong with liking your physical self. There's just an aspect of, that's just a small, the physical aspect is only a very, very tiny part of you. Let me explain it like this. Do you know how people, the saying that people only use about 3% of their brain? Now, it's been said that it's 10%. I say it's lower than 10%. I think 10% is generous. I think it's close to 3% if it's a person that only see things as physical. And they believe there's no other thing, nothing else besides physical world unless they die. Like they have to die to get beyond the physical world. Like there's no transitioning from the physical into another type of body. Like thinking that you have to what you call a physical death first. So that's basically using only maybe 3% of the brain. So the physical aspect is only maybe 3% of who you are, and that's not even the tip of that. That's not even the tip of the iceberg of who you are, to the core. Because the real you is everything. You are everything. You are everything. In this type of reality, what it is that a lot of us, I get it's a virtual reality. Some people can call it holographic world. I'm not going to argue that point, because I don't know everybody else's reality. So I don't like to argue with folks when it comes to that, because I don't know everybody else's reality. You can't do that. I know what I'm in because I've seen where my real body is, and I've seen where my house is, and I've seen that I'm in another world. And I had to do the work to make sure my real body don't die. Okay? So, but that's not everybody's reality. So, but my reality is I know I'm in a virtual reality. Literally, like I put on those virtual reality glasses in the real world, and that stuff is a trap. Stay away from that. That's a trap. I ended up here, basically in the fake world, because of that virtual reality, and my consciousness literally lowered. I'm going to make another video about that. I don't want to get off track. So the biggest point is self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is knowing that you are the all. Now, let me tell you something. It's hard to have that kind of consciousness knowing that you are the all if you're mixed in a consciousness that only see themselves as individuals and only care about the president. And you, like, even if you're in it's not even about see, the thing is, when it comes to poor, rich, middle class, you want to stay out of certain type of neighborhoods. In the lower mind, you want to stay out of certain neighborhoods because maybe they were a little more dangerous. Maybe some other neighborhoods might have been a little bit more peaceful. But now in this case, when you're wanting to get into more unity consciousness, number one, is about knowing that you are the all and you are not separate from anybody else. You're not separate by color. Okay, in the lower mind, people see themselves as individuals. They're very divided. They are very divided. You got racism, you got classism, you got colorism. I'm about to say colorism. You got colorism. You got all kinds of stuff going on. Okay, one person think they're better than the other, and really, if you're in the lower mind, you're really in the ego. The lower mind is basically your ego. I don't care how smart you are. If you're operating in the lower mind, and the lower mind means that you still consider yourself to be an individual. As long as you consider yourself to be an individual, and it's hard to see beyond the physical. Not really realizing that you can transcend out of a physical body without even experiencing what you would call a physical death. Okay, well, that's more of a lower mind, no matter how intellectual a person is. Okay, and so basically, unity consciousness is basically knowing that you are the all. But really, you're no different from anything that you see, though. You know you are no different from anything that you see. So that means having unity consciousness and seeing everything as you see yourself It's hard to be under a consciousness that have a divided mentality that only see themselves as individuals, even if they're upper class. You know, and you don't want to be in that kind of consciousness. You got to split off from that consciousness, because that's what the real division is going to be. That's where the real division was going to be. That's not what I was going to originally talk about, but I'm glad I talked about it, because I end up giving myself advice when I start talking like this. I end up giving myself advice. And I keep coming to the conclusion that you cannot be in the area of lower minds. And when I say lower minds, like I just said earlier, it's not about money. It's not about if somebody's on drugs or not. I mean, you don't want to be in those kind of areas just out of safety, out of a safety concern. But now when I'm talking about lower mind, you're talking about people with a certain type of consciousness of only seeing themselves as individuals instead of seeing themselves as the all. That's a lower ego type of consciousness. Okay, that's the lower mind. Okay, and there's going to be a split between the lower mind and the higher mind. But see, even if you as an individual have more of a higher mind, you don't want to be mixed in with the consciousness that 99.999% of the people around you see themselves as individuals. Okay, holding on to all kinds of racism, classism, whatever. You don't want to be mixed under a consciousness with that. You don't want to be mixed under a consciousness where they believe everything they see on the news, or they believe everything they see on social media. They feed into, not necessarily watch because they bored. Like sometimes I watch things because I don't want to be too focused on, like I am working on myself, because I know where I am and what I'm supposed to be. I don't want to be so stuck on it though that I end up getting back into my ego. So every now and then I take a break and I watch something that doesn't bug me. And at this point, I'm kind of able to watch anything. It doesn't bother me, because I realize that is of a lower mind and you cannot expect anything different. So I'm just going to use an example. I don't mean nothing by it. But like listening to this Still Talk with some of the ladies that I used to watch a lot, but I don't watch them as much because I don't want that type of thinking to, like the stuff between the black men and black women. It really shouldn't be anything going on between black women and black men right now. The decision should have been made amongst the collective, honestly. So at this point, I'm going to say there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. I think people might want to be on autopilot. I don't think anything is going on. It should have been a decision made of whatever's supposed to happen. But what I'm going to say is that the key is self-acceptance. So like when people get online and they want to talk about your undesirable, or they want to talk about this, number one, people shouldn't say anything to your face. So I'm going to make that clear right there. People do need to watch their mouths if they're talking to you. Nobody has the right to come up to me and disrespect me and call me ugly. You ugly. And I feel some kind of way about that. Or you should love yourself. No, you don't have a right just to walk up to somebody's face and disrespect them and say, you fat, you cripple. Like you see somebody in a wheelchair. Oh, you cripple. You get out the way, you cripple. And they shouldn't get mad because they should love themselves. No, I don't mean that. People got to watch them. People do need to watch how they treat others. And that's their issue. They don't have unity consciousness. The reason people are able to do that to other folks is because they do not have unity consciousness. They have divided consciousness where they have no idea that what you do to somebody else still affects you, but you can't feel it because you have a consciousness of being divided. But now everything is about to merge soon, and what you did to everybody else is going to come back on you. But let me tell you something about the consciousness of division. Even if you didn't do anything to anybody else, but if you have a mind that somebody else, another group of people are suffering, like just like saying with trafficking, harvesting, that should not be okay. So even with that, or you hear somebody got raped, or you hear something happen with an older lady or older man, and you just whatever, you hear things happen. That should not be okay with you. And I'm not saying that you should go out and go fight people and stuff, because if law is not going to take care of it, if the people in law enforcement or whatever, the people who's making the laws, people in politics or whoever, if they're not going to take care of it, it's nothing that you can really go out there and do. If the people that the community and the cities or whatever is paying to do the job, if they're not doing it, it's not a whole lot you can do. And what you can do is be what you want to see. So whatever you want to see in the world, try to put those things in yourself. That's about the best you can do. You can't go out and fight nobody. But what I'm saying is that it just shouldn't be a time where I would know children are being kidnapped, children are being sex trafficked, or something is happening to a bunch of women, even though they're in another area, or whatever. It just should never be a time where those things happen to people, and we feel like it's okay, even though you can't physically do anything about it. Okay? Because really, whether you pray and meditate, however you do things, like try to include everything as far as unity or whatever. See the world how you want your life to be. Some people have a mentality and that's fine, because everybody have a different mentality. That the world is going to be what it is and you can't change it, you can't do this. Well, actually you can, because you are the world. You really are the world. So you can change it, because you are the world. And working on yourself and working on your consciousness and creating unity consciousness and raising your mind to a higher mind, because you are connected, because really you are one. Working on yourself causes you to affect a lot of people. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not necessarily about going out and trying to fight folks when you see injustice, because that's going to be a hard battle and you might be by yourself if you don't have the resources. Now, people who do have the resources, I would encourage it if they can make moves, right? They can make moves and they get results. I do kind of encourage it with people who know how to get results, though. I do encourage it. But folks who, it's going to be in vain if you try to do anything. You're going to be by yourself. Ain't nobody going to back you up. And nothing's going to come of it, okay? You do better. It's more revolutionary to work on yourself. The stuff that you want to see in the world, put it all in yourself. If you want to put peace in the world, do everything to create peace all through your energetic field, all throughout your consciousness, all throughout your mind. Do everything to create peace. If you want to see more love in the world, do everything to get in the mind of love, get in a vibration of love. Because what you do for yourself affects everything around you, because you really are one. You are affecting other people that you perceive to be different, separate from you. You are affecting them. And you will notice when you start to work on yourself, and the more you improve on yourself, you start to notice that other people are different too. Because what you are doing is affecting your reality, and it's affecting other people, because you really are one. Okay? And so that's actually more revolutionary than actually going out marching and fighting. That's actually more of an act of revolution, because when you work on yourself and you work on raising your own vibration, one person said this, a lady said this, and it sounded pretty good to me. She said, you raise your vibration to 500 megahertz. If you raise your vibration to 500 megahertz, it cancels out 750,000 lower vibrational type of consciousness. 750,000 lower vibrational entities, people, whatever. It cancels out 750,000 when you raise your vibration to 500 megahertz. That's what I'm saying, is that is probably the biggest revolution right there. The revolution would not be televised, okay? The revolution would not be televised. Okay? That's the biggest revolution. So anyway, yeah. And I was talking about like people online saying who's desirable. That really shouldn't even be considered anymore, honestly. Let me tell you something. I listen to certain people because I like their intellect. I'm just going to say I like the way they speak, because I don't really care for that subject. I think it's just not even worth paying attention to. If somebody wants to say a certain group of women are desirable, that's their problem to even focus on that. If a group of women is so desirable, why do you have to get online and reinforce that? Like, they can't be that undesirable if you want to keep getting online saying it. If somebody's undesirable, I'm literally not thinking about them. If I don't desire them, I literally do not think enough of them to even click on a record to even talk about them. So if you have a group of people that want to talk about, every chance they get to call you undesirable, then it clearly shows that they desire you, because they keep wanting, for how somehow they keep finding the time to tell you you're undesirable, means that they're thinking about you enough to take their time out to keep saying that, right? Okay, so I don't really care about that type of stuff. It means nothing to me. That is the stuff that exists in the lower mind. That is just one particular pathology. There's a lot of pathology that exists in the lower mind. And let me tell you something. The lower mind is mental illness. I just want to say, when people in the lower mind, when I talk about mental illness, the fact, and this is not an insult, this is just the truth. The fact that you only see yourself as an individual and you don't see yourself as one with the all, you don't see yourself as the all, is mental illness right there. It's mental illness, okay? And so that's mental illness. I'm just saying that's mental illness. I'm not saying that's an insult. I'm saying what it is. So nobody who's operating in the lower mind have really any room to call anybody else mentally ill, because everybody in the lower mind, in the ego state, individual type of mindset, that's all mental illness. It's all mental illness, okay? So anyway, that's all I want to say. But yeah, I think that message was for me, that unity consciousness, and basically you've got to get out of a consciousness where everybody else see themselves as individuals. And for me, what I'm going to do is make it a point. If I need to get around that type of consciousness, it's not just about getting to the country. And people call nature, it's just being around a bunch of trees. But that's not necessarily true. Nature is the true self. When you get back to nature, you're getting back to the foundation and the principles of nature. And one of them is you are the all. So really getting to nature is not necessarily about being around trees and it's really more about harmony. And even if you're in a city, if you have a unity consciousness where people know that the way they treat somebody else is how they treat themselves, then that's basically, you're in nature right there, because you are living by the principles of nature. You're living by the principles of nature, and eventually it is gonna be more grass and trees, with that kind of mindset, consciousness, right? Because they'll care more about the land too, right? They care more about earth. They care more about earth. And so, or whatever you want to call earth, okay? But anyway, that is it, and I'll talk later.